In terms of changing young lives, of taking young people, of giving them a deeper purpose in life, in preparation for going into some form of public life, whether it's politics or even business or anything, that has made an enormous difference, hasn't it? Tell me about the Lachlan Macquarie Institute, what it's done, what it aimed to do, and what it has achieved so far.
Yeah, it's a good question, Nick. And we have two programs, one called The Download for 18 to 25-year-olds just going into work and university. And then we've got the Lachlan Macquarie Internship for those who are probably usually postgraduate, but looking to go into something more specific like politics, public life, law, policy, etc. And in both of those areas, we see an awful lot of fruit. The one for the younger people tends to generate a lot of people who become extremely active in their faith and in the political world, and people who are much more excited about going out and doing things and making a difference and volunteering and signing up to parties and all that kind of stuff. With LMI, the Lachlan Macquarie Internship, we get a more specialised kind of outcome, and the Lachlan Macquarie Internship is now a separate organisation, although we call ourselves sister organisations, and we offer an enormous amount of support to them. And as a result of that longer program, we are seeing people go from there, and there's a platform in that. They go into political staffing roles, they even go into political roles, overtly political roles, they go into think tanks, they go into all these sorts of areas of influence around the country. And we're finding great success through that. We're finding demand for it, especially the one for the younger folks there's a wait list on that a mile long. And we're also finding fruit from it. In other words, people are looking for a foundation so that they can then have confidence in some kind of purpose, confidence in some kind of meaning for their life that they can go and pursue. And that's happening. And so a lot of fruit from that, actually, and it's exciting to see.
Well, it's huge fruit, Martyn, because, as you say, I mean, I know a number of Lachlan Macquarie Institute graduates in prominent positions in politics and related fields. And what it seems they do going into that, sometimes quite brutal and uncivilised environment of politics, as it's played out certainly in Canberra, is actually bring something different. They come at it with some solid values and principles from which they start, based in faith. And that means that in the kind of conversations that take place perhaps in ministers' offices or around tables on issue X or Y, they may be the ones who say, but have you thought about this? And we all know how that can change the conversation. This is really, I think, living out in reality the idea of, letting your light shine, as you talk about it in the gospel. It has a big influence.
Oh, and you actually took the words right out of my mouth, Nick. I was going to say, well, it reminds me of the Sermon on the Mount, salt, light, right? And a grain of salt sitting in its environment, it has a preserving effect. It makes a difference, right? And it is through those little acts, it's through those little points of influence that we have, or indeed a light. You put a light in a dark place and it shines and it dispels darkness. And that's the idea here. You send people out as sort of little light bulbs and little, packets of salt into their various nooks and crannies of politics and public life and, the thought centres of the nation. And they have a role there and they have an effect there and an influence there. We realise that this is a long-term effort. Society's changed. The West, and Australia included, really has changed culturally in a very big way in the last 20-odd years, or at least many of those changes that had already happened have sort of become apparent. And we find ourselves now in a world that is really, really affected by woke thinking. We find ourselves in a world that is really committed to casting off some of the good things from our past, like those Christian roots, and like so many of what was offered that was good we talked about the monarchy, right, from the British Empire, for all of its negatives and faults. Boy, it measures up pretty well compared to some others, and there was good things there, but we're intent on casting it all off. And we live in a world like that. And the thing here is that, no, we're not going to be able to flip a switch and through some magic, wand waving, fix all of this overnight. But there is a long-term effort here. And that's why we train these people. That's why we send these people out and we watch them make a difference slowly but surely and effectively. And that's also why we have the grassroots movement, to have the volunteers to go out and do their work slowly and surely over time to reach people, like the salt and light metaphor.